Welcome back to Cozy English Corner. I am Alex, and today we are sitting down in Columbus, Ohio. It is a very gray, overcast Tuesday morning here. The kind of weather that makes you want to stay inside with a warm cup of coffee.
That is exactly right, Alex. The Columbus sky has been cloudy for about 6 days straight. It definitely gives you a lot of time to sit quietly and think.
I want to introduce everyone to our guest today, Maya. Maya is a former restaurant owner here in the Short North District. She recently went through a very difficult business transition.
Yes, I had to close my bakery about 8 months ago. The economic shift in the Midwest, especially with the rising cost of ingredients, just made it impossible to survive.
I appreciate you sharing that. When we experience a major loss or a failure, our minds naturally begin to replay the past. We start looking for the mistakes.
Absolutely. For the first 3 months after closing the doors, I could not sleep. I would lie awake at 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling, feeling the heavy weight of regret. I felt like I had disappointed my family.
That midnight anxiety is a universal human experience. And in English, when we process that pain, we almost always use 3 specific structures: should have, could have, and would have.
Those 3 phrases were basically my entire vocabulary during that time. I told myself I should have managed the inventory better. I could have asked for a loan. If I had been smarter, I would have saved the business.
I hear the pain in your voice even now. Maya, what you just did is a perfect example for our listeners. You used 3 phrases to talk about the exact same situation, but each one carries a completely different emotional weight.
It is strange, isn't it? They sound so similar, but they feel very different in my chest when I say them out loud.
Let us break them down slowly, starting with should have. In English, should have is the language of pure regret. It means you knew the right choice, but you failed to make it.
That makes sense. When I say I should have managed the inventory better, I am punishing myself. I am saying it was my responsibility and I failed.
Exactly. Should have carries guilt. It is not just about the past. It is about judgment. You are judging your past self from the perspective of today.
And we also use should not have, right? Like, I should not have signed that expensive lease. That is regretting an action I actually took.
Perfect example. Should have is for something you missed. Should not have is for a mistake you actively made. Both belong to the category of blame. I want to share a psychological fact here. Psychologists call this counterfactual thinking. Our brains are actually wired to torture us with should have as a survival mechanism.
Wait, really? My brain is torturing me on purpose?
Yes, when you feel the intense pain of, I should have done this, your brain is burning that lesson into your memory so you never repeat the same fatal mistake in the future.
That is fascinating. It reframes the guilt. Instead of seeing it as a punishment, it is actually my mind trying to protect me from future failure.
Exactly. Now, let us move to the second phrase, could have. You said earlier, I could have asked for a loan. How does that feel different from should have?
It feels a lot softer. When I say I could have asked for a loan, I am not necessarily saying it was the only right choice. I am just saying it was an option. I had the ability to do it, but I chose not to.
That is precisely it. Could have represents possibility. It acknowledges that you had the opportunity, but it removes the heavy judgment.
I notice that a lot of people struggle to separate the two. Sometimes a friend will say, "You could have called me for help," but depending on their tone, it feels like they are actually saying, "You should have called me."
That is a brilliant observation. In everyday English, context and tone matter immensely. If someone speaks softly, "You could have called me," is an expression of support. If their voice is sharp, it becomes a disguised criticism.
Yes, and there is another way we use could have. Sometimes it is just guessing about the past, right? Like if a delivery is late, I might say, "The driver could have gotten stuck in traffic on Interstate 71.
Correct. We call that past speculation. You do not know the facts, so you are offering a logical possibility. You are essentially playing detective with the past.
It is fascinating how many jobs these small phrases do. They carry guilt, they show possibilities, and they help us guess what happened.
Let us explore the third phrase, would have. This is the door to imagination. It is about hypothetical results. Give me the example you used earlier.
I said if I had been smarter, I would have saved the business.
Notice what happens here. Would have almost always requires a condition, an if. You are creating an alternate universe. In this fake universe, the condition changes and therefore the result changes.
So, I am basically directing a movie in my head where things go right. In my alternate movie, I am smarter. I predict the inflation, and my bakery is still open today.
Exactly. But remember, the if condition is not always spoken out loud. Sometimes it is silent. If I say, I would have brought an umbrella, the silent part is, if I had known it was going to rain.
I do that all the time. Someone asks why I did not come to an event, and I say, I would have loved to go. I do not add if I had the time. It is just understood.
Exactly. Now, there is a very dangerous trap that catches English learners and native speakers alike. It happens when we speak quickly.
Are you talking about how should have turns into shoulda?
Yes, but it is even deeper than that. When spoken naturally, should have contracts to should have. Because the V sounds like the word of, thousands of people mistakenly write should of.
Oh my goodness. I see that in text messages all the time. I should have told you. We could have won. I admit, before I ran a business and had to write professional emails, I probably typed it that way too.
It is incredibly common. But grammatically, the word of has absolutely no place there. It is a sound trap. It is always have. Always.
That is a great rule to remember. Should have, could have, would have. Never of. And what about the fast, casual pronunciation? Shoulda, coulda, woulda?
Those are very common in spoken American English. You will hear them in movies constantly. But they belong only in casual speech, never in formal writing.
Actually, my friends used that exact phrase to comfort me. When I was crying over the bakery, analyzing every mistake, my best friend stopped me and said, Maya, coulda, shoulda, woulda. It is done.
That is a beautiful cultural note. When native speakers say could have, should have, would have as a single phrase, it is an idiom. It means stop dwelling on the past because you cannot change it.
It really helped. It forced me to stop looking backward. The past is fixed. The heavy cost of what if is that it robs you of your energy for today.
Let us do a quick exercise to solidify this for our listeners. I will give you a scenario, Maya, and you tell me what you would say.
I am ready. Let us test my grammar.
Scenario 1. You had an important meeting this morning. You forgot to set your alarm and you missed it entirely. You feel terrible. What do you say?
I say, I should have set my alarm. That expresses my regret and acknowledges my mistake.
Perfect. Scenario 2. A client offered to buy your old bakery equipment. You said no, hoping for a better offer. The better offer never came. Now you realize the first offer was a good opportunity. What do you say?
I say, I could have sold the equipment to the first client. It was an option I had, but I did not take it.
Excellent. Last scenario. You were imagining a different reality where you did accept that first offer. How would your life be different today?
I would say, if I had accepted that offer, I would have paid off my debt faster.
3 for 3. You navigated those structures flawlessly. For our listeners, try to replay that exercise in your own life. Apply it to a recent situation.
I highly recommend doing that. It takes the confusing emotions in your head and puts them into clean, logical boxes. It makes the burden lighter.
Before we finish, I want to touch on one more useful expression related to this. Have you ever used the phrase, I should have known better?
Oh, many times. It means I had enough experience or age to make the correct decision, but I still made a foolish mistake. It feels like a mix of disappointments and regret.
Exactly. He trusted a scam email. He is 40 years old. He should have known better. It is a phrase that implies wisdom was present but ignored.
And there is a partner phrase to that. I should have seen it coming. That is when the warning signs were obvious, but you chose to ignore them.
Yes, when the economic shifts started happening here in Ohio, did you feel like you should have seen it coming?
Honestly, yes. The signs were there. Deliveries were getting delayed, customer foot traffic was slowing down. I should have seen it coming, but I was blinded by hope.
And that is a profoundly human thing to do. We cannot change the past, but the grammar we use to discuss it helps us process the grief and prepare for tomorrow.
I really appreciate this conversation, Alex. Sometimes we just learn the rules of English from a textbook, but we forget that these words are tools for handling real life.
That is exactly the mission of Cozy English Corner. It is not just about passing a test. It is about finding the right words to describe your human experience.
Well, you certainly helped me put my experience into perspective today. If I had known grammar therapy was a real thing, I would have come on the podcast months ago.
A perfect use of would have to close the show. Maya, thank you for sharing your story with us. It takes courage to talk about business failure publicly.
Thank you for having me, Alex. And to anyone listening who is struggling with past mistakes, could have, should have, would have. Forgive yourself and keep moving forward.
Beautifully said. To all our listeners, leave a comment below with one should have, one could have, and one would have sentence from your own life. Practice the structure, process the feeling. Stay warm, stay curious, and we will see you in the next episode of Cozy English Corner. Goodbye, everyone.